So my name is Martin Lopez. I'm a community ambassador for Trend Micro Internet Safety for Kids and Families program. I work very closely with Grant. We are on the same team, and as he said, we represent the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Great to meet everybody. I actually have a little bit of experience with schools. I used to substitute in the Arlington ISD. And so, yeah, welcome everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Martin is one of my teammates here at Trend Micro. He's a great guy. I've spent some time with him. I'm fairly new to Trend Micro myself. I'm a community ambassador as well for internet safety for kids and families. And this is something that's very close to my heart, working with kids and students. I was actually an elementary school teacher for 4 years prior to coming to Trend Micro. So this is something that was an amazing opportunity for me to come and join. And I'm just really looking forward to talking with everyone tonight. And I hope everything goes well. I'm just really happy to be here.
Awesome. So one thing that we definitely want to say is welcome. We got to introduce ourselves, and one thing that I'll do as well is introduce the program that we have here today. So Trend Micro is one of the world's largest cybersecurity tech companies, and Internet Safety for Kids and Families is a global education program that was founded 14 years ago. So that's awesome because we've been doing this great work for so many years, and it's always been completely free for the community. We have such a heart for helping the community, and we also feel that responsibility. So that's why we do this. We've been active all over the world and have reached over 3.2 million kids and parents just like you. We also have a good amount of schools joining us today. As we can see, we have Buda, Texas, Los Angeles, California, Bel Air, Valley Stream, Houston, Continental, Atlanta, Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, Chula Vista, California, Stockbridge, Georgia, and Monrovia, California. That's really awesome. I haven't been to every single one of these places, but I would love to visit one time. And yeah, this is awesome. Welcome to all these great schools.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank everyone for joining us. It looks like we have a pretty big reach across the country, so it's really awesome to see.
Now, one thing that we do want to do is get to know you a bit better. One thing before we begin, please go ahead and if you need to listen in Spanish, go ahead and click the globe icon. Sign in using the link in the chat. A reminder that this session runs about 80 to 90 minutes, including time for questions at the end. A recording of this session is available on demand only, and you can ask your PTO representatives for that. Please submit questions in the Q&A. The chat is really good to provide commentary and communicate with the other parents here, but in order for us to see the questions and be able to answer them, please drop them in the Q&A chat. And towards the end of the night, please complete the survey when you exit tonight's event. Awesome. Another reminder to please sign in. I know we're getting a lot more attendees as it's coming. It should be in the chat. And one thing that we're going to do right now is take a poll. So one of the questions that we want to know is, how old is your oldest child? So it looks like we got a couple of options. A, 5 years old or younger. B, 6 to 10 years old. C, 11 to 14 years old. And D, 15 or older. You can go ahead and click the options on the poll, and we're going to be able to see the results and see what it looks like today. Nice. I'm seeing some results. Grant, what are you seeing? What it looks like we have? It looks like we have mostly 6 to 10 years old today.
Yeah, it looks like some, let's see, elementary age. I'm trying to think of the grade levels, maybe 3rd through 5th, around that area, maybe. Yeah. Or no, maybe a little younger, maybe in 1st and 2nd grade too.
There's a couple of 11 to 14-year-olds as well. Really awesome. We got a good about 9%, right? For 15 or older, how does that look?
I didn't want to be left out on the poll. I actually couldn't vote as one of the people running it, so I just put A. I have a young daughter. She's 1.5 years, so I wanted to throw that in there.
Nice. That's awesome. So we're glad that you guys are joining us, and we love to see the range of ages I think there's going to be great information for everybody today. Now,
Absolutely.
we'll like to do a second poll and we'll show the results as well. What we want to know now is, what are you most interested in discussing today? So we're going to have option A, managing screen time for my kids. Option B, helping my kids stick to age-appropriate content. Option C, dealing with online bullying or hate. Option D, getting ideas for positive uses of the internet. And E, maybe you're not sure and you're just here to learn something new.
So go ahead and get those votes in, and we'll get our totals up here in just a little bit.
Awesome. Looks like we got some results. The highest seems to be B, helping my kids stick to age-appropriate content. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, and me personally, I know that was huge when I was a teacher. We always want to instill that on kids, on making sure that they're accessing things that are appropriate for their age. And I know me personally, for my daughter, that's something that's definitely very important.
Right. I did see that option D was the second most popular, getting ideas for positive uses of the internet. And that's awesome. We're going to learn about all of this today, and I'm glad that you guys have a preference of what you're looking for. And tonight, we're not just going to talk about keeping kids safe online. We're going to talk about how to help them be great digital citizens, which is something really important. Not only are we citizens in our community, but at the same time, we are citizens in the internet, and it's important to know that. We're not going to scare you, as we don't think that is particularly helpful. But what we want to do today is share as much of the truth and facts. That way you can make decisions for you and your family. So we're going to share things that we've learned from others, that we partner with, and parents that we've engaged with over the last 14 years. So I hope that this is great information for you. I know that the recording will be available. So please go ahead and share the recording if you can, or keep attending these events. They're awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So our approach to digital citizenship. We want to talk about what is digital citizenship. So digital citizenship is about safety and security, helping kids know what are the risks and how to avoid them. It includes digital literacy. How do I use the features and settings in technology so that I can avoid the risks? It's about ethics and community. What are the rules or norms of behavior in online spaces? How should I behave so that it is positive for others and me? It includes also mastery. It's important to know what not to do online. It's also about knowing and showing kids what we all can do online that could benefit others, myself, and the world around us. So that's important. We want you to know that, yeah, there is risk, but there's a lot of positive stuff that we can do when we master the internet and use it well.
Absolutely. Well said.
So we get here to our core pillars. We're going to cover a wide range of issues tonight, and we've organized them into these 4 buckets. We're going to spend most of the time in the blue and green areas, and we'll go through each at a high level so you have a framework to think about things. And of course, we're going to answer your questions as they come up. So we have Be Online. It's about the environment, the rules, and setting an example. It's about being safe as well. Privacy, information, self. The other one is Be Savvy. Be kind to others and to yourself. And when you're trying to be savvy, have good habits and good uses of the internet. So in this slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about setting up the environment. One, it's for our physical health. One thing that's important is the eyes. We spend a lot of time on screens, and so lighting can hurt our eyes, especially at a young age. And so we want to encourage you to use blue light glasses, but also to abide by the 30-30-30 rule. So this rule is something that we learned that every now and then, every 30 minutes, go ahead and look at something that's 30 feet wide, 30 feet away from you for 30 seconds. It helps to get your eyes adjusted and not just be used to looking at the screen so closely. So this is important, and actually something that I have. So my glasses that I wear right now are embedded with blue light. I work 8 hours on the laptop, and once I get off, I go and use more screens. So it's important for us to keep that in mind. The other one is about posture. So it's important to know that if you're sitting and you're always going to be sitting in front of the computer, that you have a good posture. When I was a kid, I used to slouch a lot, and I used to have my laptop and everything in uncomfortable positions. And that can lead to health problems or even back problems. So encourage your kids to have a good posture whenever they're sitting. And the other one is take breaks. It's important to be moving around and not spending a lot of time just on the computer. It's good to spend time outside. It's good to spend time doing other things. So also encourage them to have a healthy balance of how much they use technology. Now, let's talk about setting up the environment for your network. Step one, we want to limit the access to your router. So why do we want to do this? The router is what is helping you get the internet into your home, and it's part of your network, your personal network. So what we want to do is change the password that it came with. That's a set password, but you do have the option to go ahead and change it. And it's good to have a password that is strong and is something that only you know. Do not share it. Only share it with people in your family, and do updates right away. It's important to update your router constantly because every update has a security patch that is very important to that router. The other one would be separate the network. There's chances that you can have guests coming over, and one thing that you can do is have a main network as well as a guest network. What this does is if a guest is coming to your home or is using your internet, it doesn't give them access to your personal network and your other devices. An important thing is also to use a Wi-Fi extender, one that helps have really strong connection with your Wi-Fi. And the other one is staggering time online so that not everyone is hogging bandwidth all at once. I know that I lived in a home of 3 brothers, and my parents at the same time were using the internet as well. And so we had 5 people using the internet at the same time. And so the bandwidth was a little bit tough to play. The kids are playing Xbox and the parents are on YouTube trying to learn something. So maybe set up a home plan. That way you guys know, so from a certain hour to another hour, this is their opportunity to play. And then from another hour to another hour, this is their opportunity to learn. So make sure that you're staggering the time that you're using the network. And again, it also abides by the rule that take a break every now and then. Don't constantly be using it. Nice. Another slide for setting up the environment for your security. So use security software on every device. Every single device should be able to have a security software on there. You can do a quick Google search either for Trend Micro or other devices to be able to put it on there. And it's important to have it on your endpoints like laptops, cell phones, or even Xbox devices. The other one is turn on the firewall. What a firewall does for you is a layer of security. That way, traffic that is not supposed to be coming into your network gets stopped and isn't able to infiltrate. That's really easy to set up as well. You can go and look at it in your settings. The other one is use strong passwords and change them often. One thing that happens here at our company too, we get reminders every quarter or every certain amount of months to change our passwords. The reason for that is that if for some reason my password is out in the open, it's not a vulnerability because I'm changing it constantly. And at the same time, it should be also a strong password. A strong password is not 123. A strong password is not my name, and definitely not my birthday. For the longest time, I was using my birthday as my password, and that's actually not really a good idea. A lot of people have access to my birthday, and it's actually something pretty common. So change it to something that's not common. Use a lot of phrases, maybe capitalize something and lowercase something else, and definitely don't write them down on a piece of paper and hide them somewhere.
Yeah, and if I could just chime in, there's some password managers. You can find them in app stores. There's some that are hosted on websites, and that can be a way where you can store all your passwords securely. That's personally what I do on my phone.
The other one that we have is also use MFA. So what is MFA? It is multi-factor authentication. What this does, it's another layer of security, and you might be familiar with it already. A lot of the famous tech companies are using them like Google. And when you're signing in, what it is you input your password, and at the same time, it requests to have multi-factor authentication. So either send you a code to your phone or a notification to one of your applications to make sure and say, hey, somebody is trying to log in with your password. Is this actually you? The last one would be use a VPN. VPN is virtual private network. So a VPN is really good for when you're using public Wi-Fi's. There's public Wi-Fi's at malls, there's public Wi-Fi's at restaurants. And one thing that we sometimes do not understand is that when it is public, everybody has access to connect to it, and at the same time has access and an avenue to get to those devices because of the public network. There's great VPN services out there. Trend Micro also has one, and it's important to know that when you have a virtual private network, you are secured from all those public Wi-Fi's. So definitely think twice whenever you see guest Wi-Fi and a password for it, or just an open Wi-Fi, because that might be a vulnerability for your devices. The other one is setting up your environment for every day. So what do we want to do? It's update, update, update. So I definitely talked about why the updates are important. I didn't know this before I came to Trend Micro. And one thing that I found really annoying was that they were always requesting me to update my iPhone. I was like, I just did it last week. I just did it last month. Why do I have to do it again? And one thing that I got taught is that there's vulnerabilities for everything that is coming out. And so one thing that happens is when a vulnerability is disclosed, what the company does is they patch it. Patching it means just fixing it. So when the updates are rolled out, it's not just to make your life harder and have your phone spend an hour trying to update. It's for security reasons. So please go ahead and do that. Apps have updates all the time. Set it to do it automatically, or just do it every night. The other one is something that I mentioned on the other slide, the strong passwords. So this is a really good sort of technique to have strong passwords, and it's a good way to teach the kids to build a strong password as well. I encourage you to do this exercise at home and try it out with your kids or with your students. So for example, think of a phrase like might need to buy more toilet paper soon. That's a fun phrase, and it's actually pretty easy to remember. And let them know that each first letter will stand for something in their password. So the password is capital M, lowercase n, 2 B M T P S, and an exclamation mark. So I guarantee you that password is very hard for somebody to decipher or to find. And so try this at home, try this with your kids. It's a good exercise, and it's a fun exercise as well. The other one is backup and store safely. There's a lot of options to back up to the cloud. And what we want to do, the reason that we want to do that is because at any moment's notice, you can lose very important information, whether that is family photos that you cherish a lot or important work documents. So we want to make sure that we're backing up our devices and storing them safely. Nice. And now using the tech tools. So a lot of the tech tools have really good security content on them. So, and some of them don't really even cost money. Tech tools can help with filtering content by age, limiting in-app purchases, limiting the time that is spent on those devices, giving you a window on what they are doing as well. These tools might be available on your router, on the devices like iPads, the game consoles, phones, security software that you're already using, and within the apps themselves. One thing that I utilize a lot is the screen time on the iPhone. I personally, me myself, even limit my screen time, and it lets me know every week what it's looking like daily and what my average is. And sometimes it's super surprising to see that you can hit something like 9 hours on your phone. And so personally, do that with your kids to teach them, again, a good habit of having not a lot of time on technology. And also when we're talking about those security devices, like limiting the content by age, right? You want to go to every single app that they're using and learn where the privacy settings are at. They're usually always in just the normal settings, but be able to explore that and teach them the reasons of why that is important. So you can go to things like family settings or parental controls. Again, I mentioned privacy settings, or just digital wellness. And now I'm going to pass it over to Grant to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Martine. So I'm going to cover a little bit more of these tech tools that Martine was talking about. The first one I'm going to mention is iOS screen time. So now I know many people have Apple phones and they use the iOS software on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you all the features to just help you as parents, really focusing on limiting screen time or even limiting the content that people can be exposed to. And all of these settings, really, they're here to protect your kids and to promote a healthy screen time. Martine mentioned that he checks the screen time on his phone. That's something that I do, just to kind of be aware and cognizant of how much time I'm actually spending on my phone myself. But I just also want to mention that while there are content blocks, there's restrictions, there's limits that you can set on your phone, it's definitely not a replacement for just having good techniques as parents. This is something that can enable us as parents to provide a healthy use of devices with children, but definitely want to make sure that you are just keeping an eye on things yourself. All right, so the first step is you'll pull up your settings if you have an iOS device. And then under settings, what you're going to do is go to screen time. And so once you're under screen time, you can see this page here, and under your family, you can actually see anyone in, you can actually, excuse me, see any family member part of your iTunes account. And it's actually really cool because kids under 13 can be set up for this. So what you're going to want to do is you can click on a user and you can actually check how much screen time you want to set. So you can get weekly reports, which is really nice. You can have a report with insights about how much screen time that this person is using. I believe it actually breaks down depending on what types of apps. So let's say there's Candy Crush or something like that. You can see how much time that someone is spending on a particular app. And you can also set limits. So let's say you want to set 30 minutes a day for a certain app, or an hour a day for another app. You can actually limit it. So once that time is up, it will actually lock up the app and game time will be over. So that is something that you can use. And you can really use it on all sorts of apps. I believe there's actually no restrictions there. So very nice feature to have. And you can also see content and privacy restrictions. And that can kind of help you do those restrictions. And once you go into the menu, this is what it looks like right here. All right, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about some other things that you can do to secure your child's account. So both Apple and Android families have something that can help them. So Google Family Link is available as an app and it's also web-based. So what's really nice with Google Family Link is you can filter apps. You can decide, what apps have certain permissions to do certain things. You can control permissions, like if something has camera access, if you can access contacts, files, or media. I know camera access is something that is very important. You want to make sure that you're careful with that. You can also limit screen time in general, and you can just protect privacy and security on apps accessed through the Play Store, which if you have an Android device like myself, it's the equivalent of the App Store. And you can also protect privacy and security on the Chrome browser as well. You can even use it on, right here you see location sharing. You can actually track your child's location and have an eye on where they are at all times. And you can get alerts when they're on the move. It's just a really nice peace of mind to know where they are, and just kind of be, check up every now and then to see what's going on. All right, and everyone here knows about YouTube. YouTube is a really amazing platform. It's something that almost everyone uses. And we're just going to go through some different things that we can do within YouTube. So there is a feature that was launched called a supervised account, where you can actually filter the stuff and the different content that your kid sees on YouTube based on different levels of appropriateness. So this is really nice because you can have a little bit more granular control on what your child is actually seeing. So they are explore mode, and or most of YouTube. So with those, they're meant to target different age ranges. And if you actually go into there, you can get a little bit more hands-on and kind of see what it's like. So there, you'd really have to kind of look it up and see more about it, but it's a really great option within YouTube. Another example of a tech tool within an app. So this is for TikTok, and this is TikTok Family Pairing. And earlier this year, TikTok actually announced family pairing. And what it basically does is it allows you to limit content and time spent on TikTok. So really being cognizant of what kids are accessing and for how long that they're able to access it. And you will need to have TikTok on both your child's account, and you'll also have to have your own app. So that's something that you'll want to be aware of. You can set it on your own phone if you just want, if maybe, let's say your child uses your phone, you can also set it up there. But if you do have it on 2 devices, you will need both devices to set it up for the first time. And so what you're going to do is you're going to pull up the settings and go to digital well-being, and you can select family pairing. And once it's set up, you can limit time and you can limit who is using it. So on the screen here, you can set it up for a parent or for a teen, for example. And it's just really awesome to be able to have that sort of control and just kind of be aware of what's out there. We always want to be promoting, viewing what you should be viewing and making sure that you're doing the right thing there.
Yeah, these two apps are super popular. Like I know that a lot of people are using them, and there's also different ranges of age that people are using it. There's a lot of different content. And a lot of the times we don't think that there's bad content on there. So it's important that you set these up because there's a range of content on there. Just please go ahead and encourage your kids to be safe on this, but as well as like to you and your parents and everybody else that encourage them to learn about these settings on those apps because it is very important.
Yes, absolutely. So, and like Martin said, YouTube and TikTok are both huge and a lot of people are using it. And this is completely free. They're readily available. So we definitely encourage you to go check those out if those are applications or websites that are being used in your household. Also, this is just another screen that shows kind of what the interface looks like. So it shows that you can set time to limit your family members' watch time. You can exclude content that's not suitable. And what's really great that I didn't touch on is you can actually limit who can send messages to your family member. So that's also really huge. There's tons of people online that can access each other through apps and the internet. So this is another huge way to make sure that your child is being safe. All right, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about Instagram. I know Instagram is very popular. It's an app that a lot of people use, and really all age ranges do use Instagram. So all the way from kids up to, I know that there are definitely people, I believe my grandparents have an Instagram account, so it's definitely very popular. But they actually introduced this feature called Supervision that allows you to kind of ease your child and you onto the app. So what you can do is you can limit your child's time on the app. You can see who they follow, who follows them, but you can't change who follows them and who they follow, but you at least get that visibility about it. And these tools are really good, so you can kind of start to have those conversations with your kids. Maybe if you see someone that might not be a good example to be following, maybe someone who you might not think would be the best positive influence on your child, you can say, hey, maybe that's not the best person to be following. They kind of do some things that are a little bit questionable, or maybe things that aren't the most appropriate. People may think of you in a way that's not what you want because you follow this person, if that makes sense. So it's really good for prompting conversations within the family and just having a little bit more visibility, so you're not sitting there guessing kind of what's going on behind the scenes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Grant, and I love that you brought that up, that it's encouraging having these conversations within the family. That's something that we do want to encourage you, like get involved in how your kids are using technology and make it normal to have these healthy conversations. It should be a normal thing for families to be doing this all the time.
Absolutely. Definitely want to have as much communication, like Martina and I said, it's only going to help. And another big app here is Snapchat. So Snapchat has also released features that allow you to monitor more than you had before. So they're joining in as well. But then again, this is also it's also stuff that is here to help you kind of have those conversations about the choices that your children are making online. So right here you can see it's called the Family Center on Snapchat. It is a little bit smaller on my screen, so I hope everyone can see it well, but you can actually view friends, you can see who everyone has messaged. There's a button or an area where you can report abuse. So taking advantage of those tools can definitely help you out. And so you can view friends, you can view recent conversations, just really getting some more visibility on what's going on to really help prompt conversations about steering your kids in the right direction and making sure they're making good choices. And the next one we're going to be talking about is Roblox. So I know from my time teaching, Roblox seemed to be one of the most popular games that kids absolutely loved. I personally do not know a whole lot about Roblox, but it was something that kids seem to just have a ton of fun playing it. So I know it is very popular. A ton of kids are on it. That being said, people of all ages are on Roblox too. So there's something to be cognizant of. There's no age limit to play it. So just want to make sure that your kids are aware of that. And there's also some tech tools that are in here. You can, oh, actually it's a video. So I want to make sure I can get this to play. So as you see, you go on the settings down at the bottom, you can go into security. It'll pull up, you can do two-step verification. You can add a PIN to better secure your account. And there's account restrictions at the bottom. You can go into privacy here, who can message someone. So maybe your child's friends can message them, or you can, hey, I don't want anyone messaging them right now. So you can make it so that no one can reach out to them. So those are just a few steps. You can go into the settings. There's a whole lot of privacy settings in here. So that's something that you can kind of play around with. Another really big one is who can find me by my phone number. So if your child has their own cell phone, and that's just another way to provide an extra level of privacy. So definitely a great area to check out within Roblox. All right, so this next app is actually called Discord. Discord is a messaging service, so it's actually an app that you can download. I believe you can access it through an internet browser, and what you can do is it's really almost like a chat room. I don't know if you've used maybe Microsoft Teams at work. I know that's what some people use in their jobs, and there's just different messaging platforms. I know, so. Really, it's a messaging platform. You can share content, you can add people and message them back and forth. So what this tool is called Safe Direct Messaging. And what you can do with this is you can automatically scan and delete direct messages when messages have explicit media content. So I know Discord became a lot more popular during the pandemic when kids weren't able to see each other as much. Some of them communicated more through apps like Discord. And this is something that is definitely really big to take advantage of because it does that automatic scanning for you, and it can detect messages because, let's face it, you can't be there to see everything that happens. So this is really awesome. You can highly recommend checking that top box to scan direct messages from everyone, just as an extra set of eyes to make sure that your kids are not receiving anything that they shouldn't be. And right here, you can actually choose who can add someone as a friend. So friends of friends, this is actually kind of similar. I know if you have Facebook or LinkedIn, you can kind of control who can add you. I know there's different levels of connections on LinkedIn and kind of a friends of friends on Facebook. I myself haven't been on Facebook for a while, so I believe that's how it is. But you can kind of control your level of who can kind of reach you. So that's definitely something that you can look into just to kind of see who is connecting with your child, and maybe keep it to friends of friends just to be a little more safe. And right here, where the arrow is pointing, you can block members. So let's say there's someone who is deemed untrustworthy or someone who you do not want to have access to the account or on a friends list. You can actually block people, and that will keep them from reaching out to your account, or your child's account rather.
Grant, really quickly, we did get a question on the chat and I want to address it. So we got asked on the Q&A, what is the best way to set up limits on Chrome/Google or set it up so only allowed websites can be accessed? So earlier in the presentation, we talked about the Family Link app. I'm actually going to reply to that question in the Q&A, and there'll be a link on there as well for support for Google. What you can do is open the Family Link app. You select your child as a user, and then you can tap the controls content restrictions for Google Chrome. So what this is going to do is help you choose the settings that are right for your family. So you can manually allow or block certain sites, manage the sites that they're using, and approve the ones that you want and block the other ones that you can't. So there's a really good link on there for support.google.com. You can check it in the Q&A, and I'll also drop it in the chat.
Thank you so much for catching that. I did not see that, so I really appreciate that, Martin.
Of course.
And I just pulled up the slide that shows the Google Family Link, just so you can see it's that application that has the kite on it. So when you see that, you know you're heading in the right place. And Martine also posted that link in the chat for you there. All right, and now we're moving on to Xbox. So there's Xbox is huge. I used to play Xbox when I was younger. I know kids still definitely enjoy playing it. And this is Xbox Family Settings. So this is going to provide a little bit more control over what your almost said students, but if you are a teacher, your students are what your kids can be doing. You can filter apps, so choose what apps can be accessed. You can do maybe age appropriate apps. If they're younger, you might want to kind of keep it on more of the younger age apps and restricting mature apps. You can limit screen time, and you can approve sending or receiving friend requests. So if you don't want them to be, maybe you don't want them to be connected with a certain person, you can kind of have a little bit more control over who they're befriending and kind of who they're connecting with. All right, and now we're going to talk a little bit about Trend Micro Family Care. And this is the Trend Micro Family page that you can see right here. This is really new, and it's tools for digital parenting, really just all about protecting your children, making sure that they're safe on the internet. We support digital parenting. We promote how to be just aware of what's online. We use real-time technology to kind of safeguard your child, and we also provide guidance on some best practices and what you can do to be safe online. So this is a little shout out to the Trend Micro family, and you can access it at that link, tmfamily.care. All right, so now we're going to kind of talk about what the rules that you can set with your children. So really, we talked about setting up the environment. So now we're going to talk about what are the rules that we can set up. So those rules are going to be what? They're going to be when, how long, where, and with whom. So it's really a good idea, especially for younger kids, to think about building these rules together with them. And what's really nice is you can kind of create this as a family and really decide kind of what this all means. So what may be what they're accessing, what they have access to. When, definitely in that picture there, you do not want your children accessing maybe a phone during school, unless for maybe specific circumstances, after school clubs, or maybe early in the morning. For how long, setting those time limits that we talked about earlier. Where, maybe you have a specific time as a family that you want no technology. Definitely after bedtime. You do not want them sneaking on the iPad, I'm sure. And then with whom? Definitely want to be keeping it with kids their age, kids that they know and that they can trust. Just being aware that there are people from all over the world, all age ranges online. So just making sure that they're safe with people that they know they can trust. And what's great, like I said, is these are things that you can kind of build together as a family. You get to set the ground rules, have everyone be a part of it, and just kind of create a positive step around everything. All right. So based on the advice from the Digital Wellness Lab, what we're going to do is we're going to look at screen time as the many things that kids can do in one day. So what you can do is fill up a 24-hour pie chart or write down a list with them. And this is really great because you can encourage and kind of guide your kids to think about all the things that they need to do in a day to stay healthy, to learn, to care for their friends, for themselves, just for the family as a whole. And what this does is it really supports your kids' health. So you can think, how much time do they need, even just for sleep? I mean, that's something that I think I overlook myself, just getting that rest that you need to make sure you can be your best. Setting time for meals, for exercising, outdoor time. I know when I was younger, I loved being outdoors, and I think that's something that we should definitely be encouraging. And then once you kind of have that all nailed down, you have the health aspect, you can look to support learning. So this is time you spend at school. Obviously, you have your set schedule at school, so that's something that's set in stone. But then outside of school, you have homework. So what does that homework time look like? How are you kind of gauging what time is set aside for homework? Setting time apart for reading is huge. I know teachers really push spending time to read. If you have younger kids, I would definitely recommend just reading to your kids if they're not reading themselves. That's just really great time you can bond as a family. And then just setting time for hobbies, whether that's playing soccer, maybe that's just doing something fun, setting a time together, or setting time for your kids to do something independently, just something great to just help them have that hobby time. You also support relationships. So one of those things I mentioned earlier could be reading. That could be time with family. You could read with family. You can do other things together, go to a park, walk the dog, spend time with friends, get to know the neighbors. These are all things that you can do to support relationships. And then the last one, so you're going to have some time that's left over. And that's really great because you can you can really create a menu. This says you can do something maybe called an activity box with options, either online or offline. So maybe you get those core 3 items, the health, learning, and relationships. And with that leftover time, maybe you can do some time online, time on the iPad or the Xbox, maybe time to watch a movie, or you just fill it, as your family best sees fit. So that's the really great thing about that. All right, so now that we talked a little bit about some of the rules that you can set, I'm just going to cover this last slide of setting the example. So this is really big because you as the adult, you really are the example for your kids. So this is really important to make sure that you're aware of rules that you have for yourself. Kids really look up to adults. Their parents are the people they look up to the most. So setting good rules for yourself is just going to do a great job to be that positive role model for your kids. And you just kind of want to be aware of what kind of example that you are setting for your kids. All right, so now that I covered some of those rules, I'm going to pass it over to Martine, and he's going to kind of move along for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Grant. That was awesome. Really good stuff there, and actually stuff that I'm learning as well. What we want to talk about now is being safe. Being safe with privacy, being safe with information, and being safe with ourselves. So protecting privacy. The first thing about privacy is use the privacy settings. They're there for a reason. They're not always set to the best level for you and your kids. And so that's why it's important. And we are encouraging that you get your kids involved in finding these settings and talk them through with you. So every single application or device should have privacy settings. Please go ahead and educate yourself about it and educate your kids about it as well. So for example, on Fortnite, you'll see here as we click through the slides, it's going to direct you where you can access that. The 3 little bars at the top guide you here, the privacy saying private. Set it to private. A lot of the times it's set to public. It could be good to have it as friends as well, but it's also the best layer of security is private. Whatever makes sense for your kid and their age. Make sure you educate them about that. Every application in every game should have them as well. The other one is protecting privacy, understanding the limits to privacy settings. So as you can see here, there's always a whole bunch of stuff about privacy whenever you're signing up for something. And when it comes to terms and conditions, we go ahead and maybe not read all of this. But one thing that is important to know is that assume that nothing is private. Social medias are social for a reason. Things that you're putting on the internet, even though they can be deleted and they can be blocked off from other people, they live on the internet and they live on a server. Just because you're not able to access it doesn't mean that it's not out there and that it's not safe somewhere. So again, one good guidance is assuming that nothing is private.
Yes, and like Martin said, I just want to add something we assume is that if you take something down, maybe a post on Instagram, I think sometimes people assume that once you remove it, it's gone. But really, something important is once something is on the internet, it's really there forever. So you really just want to be cognizant when you're accessing and what you're posting.
The other option is that people might be able to screenshot that or take a recording of that. And so even though it's not living on the website itself, it could be living on somebody else's phone.
Exactly.
So now let's talk about protecting information. Another group of people who want access to our information are people you've probably never met and probably never will. Cyber criminals are using tricks all the time to get our personal information. They aren't necessarily targeting kids, but because kids use a lot of the sites, apps, and services that everyone else does, they can be victims of cybercrime. Cybercrime comes in a lot of different shapes and definitely sizes. These are examples and ways that kids might fall into a cyber criminal trap. It could be fake search results on Google, offers that just seem too good to be true, but ask for personal information, whether that's a deal to win an iPad or a deal to win a free year of Netflix. Those are all over the place, and we need to be cognizant that they live on the internet, and we need to be aware of how to notice them. Content that is just too interesting not to click on. There's a lot of stuff like breaking news, this happened, or this person passed away when they really didn't. And all of it is just trying to strike emotion. That way you click on that link, and that link might be malicious and infect your device or send you to a website that you're not wanting to be on. And also, even fake information posted on social networks. This time and day, we live in the age of that everything is out in the internet, and it's very hard to distinguish something that is real versus something that is fake. All of them are trying to get you to click, download, or enter something you probably don't want to. So what can you tell your kids about this? So one is making sure that you're using secure sites. Only HTTPS://. That's important. So whenever you go to your browser, look up in the left corner on that URL, and you're able to see that most of the time there is a little lock next to it. If there's a lock next to it, that means that it is using the proper security, and it does have HTTPS with it. Make sure that all the sites that you're visiting has this. Also, stick to the sites that you know and trust. The famous ones, obviously, right? The YouTubes, the Googles, the ones that have reputation for being good companies. There's a lot of times that there's other websites that pose as the same thing and really aren't. If it looks suspicious, do not click on it. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. The other thing is learning about cookies. Cookies are the way that websites keep information from us, whether we're visiting on them. You can turn that off as well. Beware of the pop-ups. There's a lot of pop-ups on websites like Facebook or websites even like YouTube that are directing you to an advertisement. There's many times that those advertisements could be malicious. And the other thing is update security softwares regularly. Also have anti-malware software on them and use different passwords. One thing to explain, I did talk a little bit about anti-malware. Let me tell you a little bit about what malware is. It's malicious software. And one thing that can happen because of that is ransomware. So ransomware is a type of malware that prevents or limits users from accessing their system. So something that can happen if I click a link that has ransomware on it, it will lock down my computer and it won't let me have access until I pay a certain ransom. There's a lot of times that cyber criminals are asking for a lot of money and blackmailing people saying, I will release this content or these pictures of you if you do not pay me upfront. So please be sure that you're only clicking on safe sites.
Absolutely.
So another thing we want to do is ask a poll, and we really want to know. So do any of your kids have their own cell phone? we have options yes, option no, and option thinking about it. I imagine that because of the age range that we have today, how everybody answered, that maybe everybody is getting close to preparing to have a phone. Let's see what the results are here.
So leave it up here for just a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a pretty close split right there, Martin.
It does look like it. Yeah. So we have 45% for yes, 32% for no, and 23% for thinking about it. So what I'm hearing here is that definitely a lot of them do, but even if some of them don't, eventually they will, right? So as they're growing up, either they're going to want them and they're going to feel like they want them because all their friends do, or it's just natural that you want to provide them a cell phone for safety reasons to communicate with them. But what we want to do is teach them that it's important to be safe whenever you're having a cell phone and learn what you can do. So one thing is protecting yourself. Let's talk a little bit about the camera, right? So our advice, remind your child that even if they receive pictures or anything, they should know to not be sharing pictures that are personal to people, whether it's from families. One thing is also let them know that they should never feel pressured to send a picture of themselves that they wouldn't want the whole world to see. We talked about the things that are on the internet are in the internet forever. Even if it's Snapchat, Snapchat is famous for being an app that has disappearing pictures. That is not always the case. They do live on a server. So remind them that they can come to you if that ever happens, if they're being pressured to send something that they don't want to, or they ever see or experience anything upsetting. So our advice is to remind your child that even if they receive something that they probably shouldn't have, they should know that they should delete it and take actions to talk to you and to somebody that they trust. Now it's your turn to take action. Let someone know, let the parent know, and let the child who sent them know that this is not good. Talk to the school, talk to law enforcement. It's important to be reporting this. Kids should use the phone in all the fun ways that are possible, but it's never meant to hurt others or in ways that might be harmful to themselves. So please teach them that it's important to use the camera safely. The other one is protecting yourself when you're gaming with others. Gaming is a great way to practice some skills such as reflexes and can help them build relationships. But also, it's a good way to decompress. I grew up with video games, and that's a big way that my friends would connect because we were so far from each other sometimes. And it's really nice, right? But at the same time, we want to be safe when we're doing this. If gaming is getting in the way of healthy things such as sleep or important friendships, it might be time to consider using some of the rules and tools that we talked about before, as in setting certain times on the day that they can play, or just making sure that they're playing with the right people. Anyone have a kid who struggles from playing a game after you told them 5 more minutes? I know and maybe it's bad for me to say this, but I used to be this kid. I used to be this person and my mom was like, hey, Martin, I think, maybe 10 more minutes. And, you pretend to turn it off and then you keep playing at the end of the night. So please go ahead and teach them that that's not good. I lost lack of sleep because of that. And one thing that turns to is the next day you are tired. The other thing that's really important with gaming as well is the talk that happens. It's really easy to maybe experience cyberbullying through it or be in a position where you are cyberbullying somebody else. Teach them that it's important, like how we talked in the beginning, it's digital citizenship. Just the same way that I walk around a store or that I walk around a playground, being nice to others because it's the responsible and the good thing to do. That's the way that we should act on the internet and during games as well. It's important to be a good digital citizenship and not use them for bad. So encourage your kids to have healthy, friendly relationships while gaming.
Yeah, well said, Martin. Those are all some really great points. And just something that I did want to add is whenever kids are playing a game, something that's kind of nice to note is games that have end times. I know there are some games that they can just seem really, your kid might go, oh, just one more game, and that you don't necessarily know how long that lasts. So just for an example, some of the sports games, whether it's a football game like Madden or an NBA game, those are pretty set in stone how long the games last. So maybe you can set a game for 5 minutes and hey, this is set in stone at this 5 minutes. That can be kind of a time to end. I know myself, I was definitely guilty when I was younger, and I would say, oh, just one more game. And my parents didn't always know how long that looked. But when you're playing with games that do have set times, that can be a great way to kind of just track how long they're playing. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's great advice, Grant. I compared a game like a Madden, right, which is a football game that has set quarters and set games that ends at a certain time, and compare it to something like Minecraft, which essentially you can build for hours, hours, and hours, and you really don't know when it ends. So encourage them to, again, have a healthy time limit with those.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so thank you so much for doing that. Here we see the 4 pillars, being online, being safe, being savvy, and being kind. So we're just going to start to do a little bit more of the next section. So this is being kind. And what that means is being kind to others, but also something that I think people sometimes don't always think about is being kind to yourself. That's very important, to be taking care of yourself, just mentally and physically. So when starting with kindness, it's something that we all know. It's something that we're all raised. It's the right thing to do, and it really reflects on who you are kind of as a person. So this is something that we instill in kids all the way from preschool. I mean, really the first lessons you're wanting to teach your kids is lessons around kindness. But that being said, when you are online, you're in a place where our actions are recorded. So you really do get to kind of see everything that happens, what you do, what you say, what you post, what you share, what you like, what you watch. It really kind of goes, all those items are listed and really even more. So all of these choices that we're making when we're online, they really add up to a picture of who we are. And it gets kind of, you can really see a whole lot about a person the more that they're doing online. So you want to think about who would somebody say our kids are if they knew all the choices that they were making online? It's just really something to think about. And also respecting others. So you want to respect others' privacy. You want to have family rules and values, and those can be age restrictions, language, etc. So kindness isn't always about just saying nice things to someone else. It is about respecting their differences. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about here. Some kids and adults, they do have different feelings about privacy. So everyone kind of has their own level of what they're okay with, what they think should be more private. And that's where you really kind of take control of things yourself. So what pictures or information are you okay with being posted by yourself? Or what pictures are you okay if someone else posts of you? And it's really important to ask your friends, to ask your family. Let's say you want to post a picture and there's a whole lot of people on it. Maybe it's a good idea to ask someone, hey, are you okay with me posting this? Then that's a great way to kind of spread being positive online with what you do and what you post. Sometimes families will decide to allow a phone or social media or grown-up video games much later than others. So we got to remind ourselves and remind our kids not to exclude or make fun of those whose families have chosen differently. Like I said, we want to respect others' privacy and other family rules and values. So maybe a family has different set of values and rules from your own. We just want to make sure that we're instilling our kids to be respectful of other people's choices and know that everyone has a different level of what they're okay with. And so we just want to be cognizant of that. And like I mentioned earlier, we really want to be kind to ourselves. This is super important. And I think it's really important to instill on our kids to understand that as exciting as social media is, everything that happens on social media is not a measure of their value. So I know kids can get really caught up and become anxious about how they're perceived. And a lot of social media is kind of really putting yourself out there and seeing how people react. And I know there's likes and kind of what people think about stuff, whether it's in comments or what people are posting. So it's just really important to let your children be aware of how they appear on social media and to make sure that they don't they don't equate to likes and thumbs up and reposts and retweets. That's not what makes them as a person. Social media is really built to connect with others, and we just want to remind ourselves of that. So that's something to just really to elaborate with your kids.
Yeah,
And
Brandon, that's
so,
great advice. One thing that I wanted to add there too is that that can be applied to us ourselves, right? And I think it's important when we're talking about the kindness, and you mentioned this at the very beginning of setting the example. We are the example for our community and for our youth, and so it's important for if we're going to instill these values to live up to them as well. So this is a great reminder for ourselves, right? To be kind to ourselves when we're thinking about, am I the image that I am on the internet, or am I who I am? So thank you for that advice. That's actually really great.
yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for chiming in there. I really, you had some great points. And just one last thing I want to leave with is you are not equal to your likes, your reposts, your retweets. You're greater than that. And I think it does sound a little bit cheesy, but it's really something that I think people don't always think about, and especially kids. That's something that I think they need to be reminded every now and then. And another great thing that we can do as parents is be supportive of our children. We really have to nurture kindness. You can do that in a few ways. You need to be supportive. You need to be prepared, and you need to show them what kindness looks like. Like I said earlier, kids look up to their parents first and foremost, I believe. So we really need to be there and remind them that we're always there for them no matter what happens. We can be prepared by asking ourselves 2 questions, I think. What would we do if our child was ever bullied online? And what would we do if our child was the one that was being unkind to someone else? Those are, I think, 2 things that we always need to just ask ourselves and just be thinking of to make sure that those situations don't happen. If we can all support our kids the best, ideally no one will ever bully anyone, and that will never happen. So we just need to really be aware of all the things that we talked about, and just make sure that we're being kind to ourselves, we're being kind to others, and we're really respecting everyone that we can while we're online. So finally, one thing that I think is really awesome is sharing good things that happen online. I know, like one thing I think of is sometimes the good stories don't always get promoted, and they don't always reach the top. For example, in the news, you're not always going to see the most wholesome things. Sometimes more negative things can get promoted in the news, for example. Sometimes more negative things can get promoted in social media. So I think it's also really great to just share the positive, to spread things that are positive and good things that are happening online. Share those stories with friends, families, and definitely with your kids, just to kind of help spread some of that kindness online. I think that's a great step we can all take ourselves.
Yeah, that's such a great point. With so much stuff that is out there, a lot of the time what bubbles up to the top is the bad stuff. So one thing that we do want to encourage is that remember that the internet is a place for good, and we can use it for good, and let your kids know that, and encourage them to celebrate that. Seeing stories like somebody helping somebody, right? That's so important for us to share and not let the bad stuff overrule the internet. Let's start encouraging everything the good that is happening out there.
Absolutely. And those positive interactions, they can just leave a huge ripple effect and can kind of spread a chain reaction from there. So it just takes one person to spread it, and it really can go from there. So that being said, we've really kind of covered all of the 4 pillars, from being online to being safe, to being savvy, to being kind. So really, we're just going to wrap it up right here. And we're going to go over a few good habits and uses that really can encourage you today. So that being said, we're going to cover those habits. All right. So especially with what we're kind of where we are at the state of the internet and where we are today, there's a lot of stuff that it can be hard to know if it's really real or not. So sometimes you don't know if a photo is real, if it's photoshopped. There's some software out there that people get really good at photoshopping. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of talk about that a little bit. So someone can take a photo from anywhere and open an account as if it's them, or that the image is their own. So right here, we have a little example of the original poster. That's the original photo that's posted. And someone can very easily take that, claim it as theirs. And this can really happen anywhere. It can happen from maybe an Instagram post. It can happen from something in the news. They can grab something and Photoshop it from the news. or social media posts can be based in fact, or they can be a complete hoax. So we're going to talk a little bit about and doing some things that we can kind of figure out if something's real or not. In the case of images, it's actually easy to do a reverse image search. So what you can do is, I know Google supports this feature. You can actually grab a picture and you can actually search the picture itself on Google. You can, I believe you can copy and paste a picture into the link, into the search bar, or you can actually drag a picture and search that picture itself. And you can check to see kind of where it came from, where this picture appears, and that can really give you a little bit deeper information about it. I'm sure there's easier ways to search by the picture, but if you just Google search by image, you can actually find some tips on how you can do that. And so in the case of information, this is a really good opportunity for us to teach our kids to maybe pause and think and ask questions before they see something and just automatically assume that what they see is real, or, just to kind of keep an eye out for certain things like that.
Yeah, granted, something that's an example of that, it actually happened to a good friend of mine. Somebody was posing as them in a profile and adding their friends on Facebook and actually messaging with them. And so at one point, everybody thought that they had a new profile because that's what they were saying, when really it was somebody posing as them. So it's important to be curious and to be skeptical of those things. If you see something like that, make sure to double check, like how Grant is saying. Do a reverse image to see if this has been posted by somebody else, but also make sure that that is the real person you're talking to. It's hard to know who is behind that computer and who is behind that profile.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, it's just good to make sure we're asking those questions, and obviously just staying in contact with friends and just asking them maybe if you see something suspicious, just to kind of be on top and make sure everything is safe. And so that being said, we want to pause and ask questions before we act. So we put some choices up there. Why was this made? Who made it? What is missing? How might different people interpret it? How do I know this is true? Who might benefit from this message, or who might be harmed from this message? So when we're talking about building healthy relationships with media, I think it's really important that we are asking these questions. We always say, think before you act. I think that's something that's really important, not only just for kids, but for adults, to always think before we do something. And these are some good questions that you can prompt yourself, and also to prompt your kids to ask. And so I think it's really important when they see something online that causes them to have a strong reaction, whether they see something that's fake or see something that is maybe like clickbait. You might have seen that before. These are just some questions that they can ask. And they're actually in a guide that we co-developed with the National Association for Media Literacy and Media Literacy Education. And this is actually on our website. And on this next slide, we're going to talk about encouraging good habits. So have you ever looked yourself up in the internet? If you're ever curious, you can look yourself up, and it might be interesting to see what you find. And have you ever asked your kids if they've ever done this? So here's how you can do it. You can really just go right here, and this video is going to show you. You can go to google.com and it will show you the steps. And so this is actually going to be talking about alerts. So this is going to be a little bit different. So we're going to look here. And so what you can do here on the Google website is you can actually do alerts to see how often. So for example, they search Trend Micro, and so they're looking themselves up. So they're saying how often as it happens, the sources, so automatic, languages, and they're actually seeing it's actually monitoring the web for new content. So within the search of Trend Micro, it'll actually show all of these different these different bits of information, which is interesting. You can create that alert and get all that information. So you can use yourself. You can really use any topic and get that extra information, which is a really neat tool that you can use in Google. So that's going to be google.com /alerts. And so highly recommend you look it out and play with it. It's a little bit new to me, but you can set those alerts to find some detail about yourself. For example, Trend Micro there, but you can really put anything you would like. And it's actually really interesting. You can find out, like Martin said earlier, there's something called the cyber twin. So maybe there's someone out there that is not you and they're posing as you. So definitely a way to keep track of kind of what's going on. All right, so now what we're going to talk about is knowing what is public and what can be good for your child's future. So we actually follow the Kaplan Institute's annual study, and each year they survey college admissions officers about a lot of different things. One of the questions they ask is, would you ever look up an applicant online? So that top number that you see there in the bold black, so 66% of college admissions officers said yes this year, that they would look up an applicant online. That's higher than all previous years since 2014. So this is something that, like we said before, you do leave a footprint online, and this is something that can kind of go with you. 57%, that's the red middle number, of those who did not, or who did look, found something that hurt the students' admission chances. So that's more than half of the students that were looked up. They found something that did hurt their chances. But this bottom number here is promising. 38% found something that made their application stronger. So this is just a really good reminder that what you do online does stay with you. But there's a good side of it. That 38% is a really great number, and we'd love to see it higher. But there are a lot of positive things online, whether it's something that the application officer liked, or the admissions officer, maybe just something that made you stand out as an awesome person and doing something great. So if a child really did everything that we talked about up to this point, they might be invisible. They might not have a huge online presence, and that actually may be okay. But they also might be missing out on a chance to showcase ways that they've done, how they've mastered the internet and things that they're really good at, things that they care about. So just remember, like we mentioned earlier, the internet is really there for good, and we want to be making sure that we're capitalizing on that good that we can do on the internet, whether it's social media or any other things that you're accessing on the internet.
Yeah, that's true. And our conversation today is not to tell your kids, hey, don't go online. It's not a dark alley that is unsecure. We need to encourage them to, yeah, be online for the right reasons, for the good reasons. I love that we are bringing this up because there was also another example. I used to be a student athlete in my university, and some of my teammates on the track team were let go from the team and from the scholarship because of pictures that they were posting online. So remember that you're building a digital footprint, us as adults, but also as the kids. And how we've been talking about, it lives on with you, and you carry it with you. So it's important for us to know what our digital footprint looks like and to make sure that it's a positive one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point you bring up. Yeah. So making sure we're using those positive, using the internet for positive as much as possible. And that being said, I'm going to go over some good uses for the internet. So you can learn new skills. That's huge. You can promote a cause, something that you're passionate about. You can raise funds. You can showcase accomplishments. You can enter contests. These are just a few things. You can do a whole lot. So if you're an aspiring artist, a performer, an athlete, musician, you can showcase all those different skills on the internet. And there's great ways to showcase it. You can do YouTube channels. You can use different sites, blogs, different websites. And it's really a great way to just remember we're here to have a positive use on the internet. And we just want to be cognizant of that. All right, so now we're really at the point that we're going to start wrapping it up. Again, we're going to see these 4 pillars that we talked about. So we believe that these 4 pillars are really going to help kids to be great digital citizens. And it really takes our work. There's really a lot of work on our part as parents, as the adults and as the role models for kids, whether they're our own kids or just kids in general. We're really focusing on our own children. We want to help them to be safe while online, to be savvy, and to be kind. and to make sure that we're setting up the right environment and the right rules for our family.
Yeah, and these pillars are so important. I encourage you to go back home and speak to your kids about this, speak to other parents about this, encourage them to have conversations like this. And again, what we want to do is help everybody be safe online, be kind, be savvy, like how Grant was saying. It's been a great conversation with everybody. One thing that we do also want to do is share your feedback with us as well. There's a 3-minute little link that we posted there. It doesn't take much, so let us know. But also let us know in the chat, like, was this helpful for you? Did you learn something new today? Is there something that you didn't know? Have you heard of this before? It's really good feedback for us to understand if we've done a good job today or not. But I really enjoyed this conversation, and Grant, thank you for helping me encourage this to the parents that we have here today, and to the kids. Remember, these 4 pillars are very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Martin. And we just have a few things that we're going to cover up here at the end. A few resources that we have here at Trend Micro. So Martin, if you can just kind of cover these, and we're going to get things wrapped up.
Of course, yes. So one thing that we do want you to know is that we created a Kids Cyber Academy with short videos and Kahoot. There's quizzes for you to have the same discussions with your kids at home. So you can access this through trendmicro.com/internet safety. Every module comes with an animated video. There's a Kahoot quiz. I know schools and kids love Kahoot. There's an activity sheet, a conversation guide to have that healthy conversation with them. And it's also available in multiple languages. We have things and topics like passwords, 2-factor authentication, privacy, security, healthy habits, camera safety, time online, kindness, and safety settings. So these are all really great. Encourage your kids to participate in this. They're actually a lot of fun. I've done them myself, but also encourage your kids to maybe show it to their students or to the teacher. It'd be a really good exercise to do during a class. And it's also a really good exercise to do at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to add that new content is being added at the bottom. You can see those time online, kindness, and safety settings are new, and new content will be added as things progress.
Nice. And we also have resources for you as parents. So this is Trend Micro site, trendmicro.com/internet safety. I encourage you to go and browse it online, learn what we have on there. It's a great resource. Bookmark it. That way you know that you can access it pretty easily. And again, this is part of us caring and us wanting to educate the community. One thing that we do know is that we have a responsibility to do that, and that's why we do these things. So please go ahead and browse there and visit our site. It has a lot of great content from our teams, and we work really hard to put that out there for people like you, the parents. Also, this is PTO's today's resources. You can go to teacherslist.com/blog/parent-corner/tech talk. Another way to have great resources. Make sure you bookmark that as well. It has really great content. And the last thing we want to do is keep it going. We want you to stay active in the community, stay active with your family, and make sure that you know what your kids are doing online and with their technology. Communicate with them, communicate with other parents. It's important for us to have these conversations and communicate with us too. Let us know what we should be teaching. Let us know if this is helpful. This is really, really great for us. And the other thing is stay up to date. Technology, from the way that it's been going, it's really, really keeping up and speeding up. There's always new applications. There's always new innovations coming out. And one thing that's important is for us to stay up to date. Also, do one new thing that you learned today. I encourage you to go back home after this and try it out, whether it's a privacy setting or just having the conversation with your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And just one thing I wanted to add is this is definitely an ongoing conversation, like we've said. This shouldn't be a one-time thing where you just have a talk and kind of just leave it at that. This should be something that you stay active with your kids and really make an effort to talk about this continuously and always reminding each other of the rules that you've set and maybe changing those rules. It's just a really great time to provide that healthy communication within the family.
the last one is give us your feedback. Let us know how we did. I had a great time today, and Grant, I'm sure you did as well. Thank you for joining me. And to all the parents that we have on here, thank you for sticking with us and learning this. We dropped that link in the chat, trendmicro.com/internet safety/PTO today feedback. It's really quick to go ahead and do it. Doesn't take a lot of time, and it's very helpful for us. So please let us know how we did today. And the other thing, oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, I was going to say, yeah, absolutely. We definitely would love to get feedback. It's definitely helpful for us to hear how we can do better. If you had any questions, we'll make sure that we can cover those in later topics. So just, it really means a lot to us if you could just provide that quick feedback.
Yeah. And the last thing is, if you include your email address in the feedback or in the sign-in sheet, you will be automatically entered to win 1 of 5 copies of Trend Micro Maximum Security, which can protect up to 5 devices in your home, including cell phones, for 1 year. So it's a great software that we have. We're giving it away for completely free. Please go ahead and put your email on there to enter this. And yeah, it's a great thing, again, to encourage security in our devices. And thank you so much for spending time with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I love being here with Martin. I love being able to talk to everyone. So just thank you for sticking here with us. We really appreciate everyone's attention and staying involved and participating in the chat. So we just really appreciate it.
Yeah. The last thing we want to say is thank you. Thank you for encouraging yourself to learn about this. Thank you for spending time with us. I am sure we're going to keep having these conversations. As Grant was saying, this is an ongoing conversation, and we want to keep this conversation going. So feel free, again, to reach out to us. We're always happy to do these presentations, and hopefully we can see you in person as well. So gracias. Thank you. My name was Martin Lopez, a community ambassador for Trend Micro Internet Safety for Kids and Families, and I had a great time. Yeah, and again, I'm Grant Arrington here with Martin. We're both community ambassadors for Trend Micro. We really appreciate your time. We really appreciate everyone being here to listen and follow along. So we hope everyone just enjoyed what we were talking about. And it's really just great to be here. So we really appreciate it.